Greetings to all you lovely people in the digital world, and welcome back to another episode of Spliced In Later. It is time for a movie review. This is indeed the movie review that I promised a couple weeks ago that I was unable to deliver because I had forgot what day of the year it was and what day of the year this movie came out. I completely lost track of where I was in the world and what time was. But here we are now, we're finally able to review it. Hopefully kicking off a few movie reviews from this point on to cover the month of March. Not necessarily back to back, but should be a few, provided there aren't any last minute shake-ups regarding movie releases, which are still happening. There was a movie coming out this week later called Operation Fortune, the new Guy Ritchie movie. That's just been yanked completely from the release schedule. No idea when that's coming out. So it's still the Wild West at the moment. Anything can happen. But today, we are reviewing the newest movie from Pixar Animation Studios, Turning Red, which has released exclusively on Disney+. I don't know, I've heard that in some places in the world you might be able to go to the movie theaters to see this one, but for the majority, for primary users, Disney+ is the only way to get this one. It's a little unfair for Pixar, I think. I don't know why they're the ones that keep getting shafted, that keep getting the Disney+ releases, and not even for Premiere Access. It's just dropped on there. I think with the amount of effort they put into these movies, the amount of creative content, their high reputation, the love that people have for these films, they probably deserve a bit more. The last few, Luca, Soul, Onward, Toy Story 4, if you want to go all the way back to before the pandemic, truly great stuff. So I don't know why it keeps happening. But because of that, obviously with Pixar films, I always have a high expectation for them. And I go in with my eyebrows raised, ready for my emotions to be wrecked in some way or another. I did watch this on Friday, but I've given it a couple of days for it to sink in. I believe last year I watched Luca and then reviewed it immediately, and my thoughts on Luca were a little so-so, but then later on reflection and on rewatch, it did get a lot more of a stronger opinion from me. So I'm letting this one sit for a bit to really gel and for me to decide if I like it. But I think the difference here, and a spoiler alert for how the rest of the review going, is that I got an immediate reaction out of Turning Red. It hit all the right buttons for me. It was a absolutely great movie to watch, a great viewing experience. I appreciated everything about it, the animation style, the story, the setting. Everything about it just gelled specifically with me and my tastes. And that's what's great about Pixar as well. It has a variety. I know there's been a lot of sequels as well, but for the most part, Pixar do make quality standalone films that are set in different time periods, different places, different genres, different cultural impacts. And it's really interesting to see all those different stories told in a way that both children and adults can access it. So yeah, spoiler alert, Turning Red's great. I loved it. I thought it was almost the greatest film I've seen this year. The Batman just edges ahead, mainly because of my love for Batman. And also I do think the Batman is a better made film, just slightly. But Turning Red is a great film, a great animated film, a great Pixar film. It's probably up there for one of my favorite Pixar films ever made. If you don't know what Turning Red is just to get that out of the way for you, it is a interesting movie set around a young girl called May who lives in Canada but comes from a Chinese family. She likes to put on a front that she is very confident and outgoing, and she's just turned 13, so she's going to seize the day and take advantage of life and all that. But in actuality, she is a really stressed out individual who lives under the thumb of wanting to please her family, specifically her mother. So she doesn't go hanging out with her friends and doing wild things. She always goes to school. She gets A+ on all her exams, and then she rushes home to help her mother out with their Chinese garden museum place. And then they have dinner, and then she goes to bed. It's very, very simple, very, very stressful stuff for her. But as mentioned, she is turning 13, so she's going through some changes in terms of her personality, her interests, a lot of stuff that, especially if you're a young girl, can relate to wholeheartedly. But for this film, it takes on a different approach where with all that stuff happening, she also has the unfortunate handicap, which is whenever she's feeling these emotions, excited, afraid, stressed out, anxiety, hell, even horny, she turns into a giant red panda. Now, you would think at the beginning of the film, you think you can guess where it's going to go, where, oh, okay, she's going to keep that red panda thing a secret from everyone around her. But it's addressed pretty quickly. And the main point of the movie is that apparently May's family have had this gift or curse, however you want to look at it, where ages ago their great 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 ancestor was blessed with the power to turn into a giant red panda to protect her family. And that power has been handed down to every woman in the family. But since you don't really need to be a red panda to protect your family anymore, it's more as an inconvenience. So they have to do a special ceremony, ritual to remove the red panda spirit. But it only has to happen at a certain point. So she's got to wait a couple of weeks. The red panda first starts as an inconvenience, then she starts to realize it's got some opportunities, some ability to become more popular at school, become more confident. And of course, the main issue being that she really is keen on seeing this boy band, which happened to be performing in Toronto on the same evening that the giant red panda ceremony is supposed to take place. Very run-of-the-mill stuff, I would say. Of discussing it with other people, a lot of the themes have been addressed before. It's the usual stuff of family dynamics, family problems, learning to be your own person, but also respecting your family. For parents, it's how to protect your children, but also let them flourish and be their own person, all of that stuff. So you have seen a lot of it before, but I think for this film, it's portrayed in its own unique style, which I really appreciated and thought was pretty great. Now, what I really like about this film is that you can tell there's a lot of love and commitment put into this. Reading about this film afterwards, apparently it's based on the life of a person who grew up in Canada from a Chinese family. So there's a lot of real life situations that have been put into the making of this film, obviously aside from the red panda thing. It's also got a very unique animation style, which I think is unique to the Pixar brand. I don't know if it's something that Pixar is slowly working on, but I noticed it with Luca as well. The way they do their animation style is changing to fit the tone of the story that they're telling, which is pretty good. For the most part, Pixar films have had the same sort of look. I guess in the beginning it's because, computer generation is evolving and the main goal is just to get the animation out without making any mistakes. But now that animation has come so far and there's so many different styles and so many ways of telling stories, I think they're using that to give more uniqueness to their stories and to enhance the story that they're going on. As I said with Luca, the use of Italian imagery and painting style animation, brushstrokes, looked really good in that. This has more of a Studio Ghibli vibrant popping animation style. There's a lot going on. Very reminiscent of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the Mitchells versus the Machines in that sort of popping pop art style animation. It's intense. I did think at the start of the movie, it kicks into high gear immediately. May is shouting at the camera about who she is and what she's doing, and here are her friends, and here are her family, and here's where she lives, and here's what she wants to do, and here she needs to be. And the animation is fitting her energy and excitement that I did feel like my brain was going to explode for a minute there. I thought, oh my God, information overload. But then I allowed the animation to settle in and match the themes of the story and where it actually was going, and I thought it fit dramatically. I've heard some people aren't a fan of the animation. I think they think I've heard it's a bit subpar or they don't like it. That's fine. People have their own tastes. Nobody's going to like everything 100% of the time. But I wouldn't say, in my opinion, that the animation is bad or hard to get into by any means of the word. I think the animation is absolutely important and necessary to the themes of the film, the story that it's trying to tell, all of that shit. And it really worked for me. There's a lot of stuff in there that made me laugh because of that animation style. I also think it's probably the more adult version of Pixar. It might be their most adult film. I'm not sure. One of the main themes or confusions that start off at the start of the film with the whole red panda fiasco is that her mother believes originally that it's her first time of the month. So there's a lot of, you would think that they would hint at it and pander over it, but then they use all the words. They talk about tampons, pads, all of that. It's even described originally as the red time has come, which if you're a kid, you probably don't know exactly what they mean, but if you're an adult, you know exactly what it means. But May also swears in this film. She says crap in the beginning, and I remember noticing that and went, I don't think anyone said crap before in Pixar. I'll be interested here in Australia when we get it on DVD. I would like to see what the classification for this movie is. I'm sure it's a PG, but I would like to see if there's any warnings on there. about that. But that's good. It's good that they are not trying to limit themselves or speak down to their audience in any kind. This is the story they're telling. This is the parallels. Obviously, the red panda is a parallel to reaching puberty, to having your body change, your interests. Suddenly you're interested in boys and girls in a way that you weren't before. Suddenly you're embarrassed by your parents instead of wanting to please them. Suddenly you want to break off on your own and do your own thing and have your own interests. So there's a lot of that in it. You can't just pretend, we can't address that specifically because it's a kid's movie. You do need to know what the right balance is. And I think this one has it in a very unique and interesting way. Another unique, interesting aspect to the film, it is set in 2002, which absolutely worked for me, 100%. As I said earlier, obviously it's based on real life stories and examples from the creators of this film, which is great. For 2002 was when I was growing up. I was probably the exact same age, if not a little bit younger than May, during this film. So I recognized everything going on around her in terms of the way the world was, the interests. The big thing at the moment is the boy band. You get huge essence of Backstreet Boys and 2000s style music, which I've always loved personally. I've never really evolved past the 2000s. I like music here or there, but I don't get it a lot of the time. So this was my point. This was my high point, was the Backstreet Boys and all Good Charlotte and all that other stuff. So seeing all of that stuff, plus the 2002 style video cameras, flip phones, the way there's no Ubers or social media or anything like that in here, it's extremely relatable for me. It was like a time capsule to my youth as well. So that really gelled and worked for me as well. In terms of the characters, everybody's great, if a little overbearing, because I said the animation is a bit intense. So they have some very, very vibrant side characters, which sometimes work, sometimes don't. May has a set of 3 friends. You can tell there's the one main friend is like the best friend, and then she has the 2 side friends who have a gimmick. One is very mellow and calm, and the other is very intense and over the top, which is fine. You still really like their 4 friendship bond. It's just there's a lot of it works with that animation style. So if you're not a fan of the intense popping animation, you're probably going to be annoyed a little by the intensity of some of the side characters. I thought it was fun. I really, really liked the relationship story between May and her mother. You could tell that they both loved and cared for each other very much, and the only reason they weren't getting along was because of miscommunication and misunderstanding. Plus, the father was also a fantastic character because he did not say much, but you could tell that he wanted to help. He didn't know what to do, what to say. A lot of fathers can be lost like that as well, but at the right point and right time when he needs to step up for his daughter, he's there. And also interesting seeing the rest of May's family. She has her aunts and then her grandmother, and they've all had the red panda issue as well, and they've all got their own personalities. And May's mother and her grandmother have that same strained relationship, which is a precursor, a look at what May's future could be if they don't find some common ground and some way to communicate with each other. The red panda stuff also escalates into a full-blown superhero film by the end, which I thought was pretty great. There's some great confrontations, some fighting, some running along buildings and jumping, using the red panda to survive huge jumps and make money on the street. I thought it was great. Overall, there's not too much more for me to say about it. I just think it's a unique Pixar film, something that caught me off guard because I expected Pixar to be good. I didn't expect it to gel with me as much as it did. I thought it was a great visual style. I think the animation is great. I thought it was a great use of the time capsule period of 2002. I loved all the imagery and the reference to boy bands and all of that stuff that really showcased my youth. The interesting seeing the look at the Chinese family in Canada as well. It's an interesting take on the story, which only helps because you know that what you're seeing is based on true stories and true events, so that's great too. The red panda gimmick is fun. The intensity of the story, the vibrant, the popping, it keeps you awake. You can watch it late at night, and the shouting and screaming will absolutely wake you up. But me personally, I think it's one of Pixar's better films, but I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you like personally, what you can relate with, what you've seen before, how many times you've seen it before, what about Pixar appeals to you. And the great thing about Pixar is there is such a variety to their films that you can say, I like one film, but I don't really like the other, and someone can have the complete opposite opinion, and that's okay. You can 100% like all the Pixar films. You can find them mediocre, but there's so much content there and so many variety of storytelling and animation style and its own company in its own right for a reason. It's why it's known as the Pixar company. Hell, if you think Cars 2 is the greatest film ever made for Pixar, all power to you. I really need to rewatch Cars 2 because I remember thinking it was fine when I watched it. And over the years, people have just said that it's the trashiest movie of all time. So I will have to go and confirm that or deny it. And knowing my likes and my stupid brain, I'll probably think Cars 2 is fantastic. So we'll go back and have a look at that at some point. But overall, Turning Red gets an 8 out of 10 from me. It is a great, lovely, animated Pixar film. Great for kids, great for adults. Everybody who watches it will get something out of it, whether you're a kid and you're just appreciating a new animated film, or you're an adult. And at this point, the adults who are watching it with their kids are probably adults who were kids in 2002 and can absolutely relate to what they're seeing. Plus, if you've ever had problems with your family, with your mothers, with your grandmothers, if you ever suffered from anxiety, if you ever been fully lost control of your emotions, which hell, we've all been there, I can 100% guarantee that it's going to click with you in a lot of ways. And the animation's great. Really give it a chance to allow its special style and its vibrancy and its poppiness to really help tell you the story. And I think a majority of you will really appreciate it. There you are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. A rather shorter review than normal, but I don't have too much to say with the animated ones because how many times can you say the animation is good over and over again? However, I will be back next week, maybe for another movie review or a standard episode. I don't know. The movie that I'm planning on reviewing, I kind of want to watch, but I also don't. So I have to decide one way or the other. I don't think I'll like it, but I think I need to watch it for my own personal opinion to confirm or deny that. So you'll just have to check in next week to find out what the hell I am talking about. But until then, stay safe, stay kind to one another. It's been lovely talking to you as always, and I will catch you next time. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.